5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello. Welcome to another AMA with Portal to Bitcoin. Today, we've got our CEO and co-founder, Chandra Duggirala.
Thank you for having me, Terry. Happy to be here and answer all of the community's questions.
Oh yes, we've got quite a few from our dear community members over on Discord. We've got our first one here from Ryan Surratt. He asks, the majority of Bitcoin holders prefer to hodl rather than actively use BTC and DeFi. They see Bitcoin as a store of value, like digital gold, rather than an active financial instrument. How can Portal convince the Bitcoin community that using BTC and DeFi can be done safely without sacrificing its trustlessness?
Great question. So we don't actually want people to part with their Bitcoin, right? We enable people to trustlessly trade Bitcoin against any other asset that they want to. You're right that Bitcoin is considered by a lot of Bitcoiners as a store of value. But if you understand the Bitcoin network, if everyone just hodls Bitcoin and never does any transactions on the blockchain, and you'll have empty blocks, what happens to the network security after the block subsidy expires? Yes, we know it's in 2140, but you need active transactions to generate the fees that keep the miners in business, which actually provides the hash power that is required to protect the Bitcoin network against repeated 51% attacks. So transactions are essential. What do you do with your Bitcoin? Obviously, we expect people to be able to maintain the full ethos of Bitcoin, trust minimized transactions across whatever they're doing, whether they're chasing yield, whether they're doing spot transactions, speculating on options, perps, et cetera, et cetera. What we do is we enable trust minimization, which is one of the core ethos of Bitcoin, and extend that property across all of the above transactions that you can do. You don't have to do them, but if you do them, you still get all of the security guarantees that either you have your coins or the counterparty has their coins when you have their coins, or the other way around. But there's never a situation where you encounter counterparty risk, custodial risk, and so on and so forth. So that's the value proposition we bring to Bitcoiners specifically, who care about self-custody, who care about, not having counterparty risk in a digital bearer instrument like Bitcoin. And so we don't need to convince anyone to do anything. For those who want to do it, we provide security and safety.
Oh, absolutely. When engaging with a centralized exchange, no one wants to receive that IOU. And when it's time to redeem here, sorry, we don't got it.
That's right. No, I mean, on Portal to Bitcoin, there are no centralized custodians, off-chain custodians like Sexes. There's no bridges, no vaults, no multi-sigs, no custody risk.
And that leads us to our next question from Gustavo Fring. So, most crypto users today are still more familiar with centralized exchanges due to their convenience. How does the Portal team plan to attract users from the centralized exchanges to its DEX?
That's very simple. We provide the exact same value propositions that centralized exchanges provide, which is the ease of use, good user experience, convenience, speed, low transaction fees. In addition, there are no gatekeepers. There is no custodial risk. There is no multi-sig that can get hacked. There is no arbitrary exchange collapse risk. And it's completely permissionless. And that's the key value, right? No custodial risk. You can get all of the benefits of SX, none of the downsides of SX. And so that's how you build any product, not just Portal DEX. Any product has to surpass the standard of what is available today by at least an order of magnitude. And that's the philosophy we've taken from the beginning.
Indeed. And on to our next one from MK. Do you plan to eventually add more blockchains, such as Cardano, Solana, or Polkadot?
Solana, of course, it's already being added. You guys will see next week or by the time this goes live. And our plan is to include the chains that have real utility and real activity. And eventually the 80-20% rule will come into play, where most of the activity, 80% of the activity will probably be on 20% of the L1s out there. And those are all going to be compatible and integrated into Portal X. That's the target.
Ooh, yes, that top 80% of use. That's a good metric to use.
Right, because we don't want to include ghost chains that nobody uses, nobody cares about, and the only function of that chain is the product is the token kind of a model. We don't, I don't think anybody benefits from that.
My apologies to 2014's Kanye West. I don't think we'll be supporting that chain.
Or Bluecoin or anything like that. Not to pick on anything specific, but
I get you. All right, let's see. We have another one here from Renatan Web3. I would like to know if you intend to expand V2 due to the current situation in the crypto markets and if there are any concerns because of this.
I mean, the technical development doesn't really have anything to do with the crypto market. This is a long-standing need that precedes the 2017 Ethereum ICO craze, right? Exchanges have been collapsing since the day the first exchange came into force. So custodial risk, exchange risk, on-chain custody, problems with bridges collapsing, walls, multi-sigs getting hacked, etc. That problem isn't going away. It is independent of what's happening with current crypto markets. So, if any delay happens, that's probably because there was a bug discovered or there was a technical issue that needed to be solved, but nothing related to markets.
Makes sense to me. All right, and here from I7, how will Portal support BTC in the future? And how far along are the project's main products, including the Liquidity Router, Swap SDK, Portal Wallet, Rafa, and what benefits will they bring to the community?
Great question. So all of those are live. So when you're talking about Portal Wallet, Portal DEX, they're already in testnet, and people have been using them and testing the crap out of them for many weeks now. The Liquidity Router has been used to integrate a couple of L1s already, and many more L1s will be integrated using the Liquidity Router. The Swap SDK is specifically for integrating third-party multi-currency wallets, and we're working with some of the biggest Web3 wallets in the world. So they're all functional. Rafa.ai has been in the market in the TradFi space. It's the number 2 product on Product Hunt. We're not just talking crypto in the investing tools. Number 5 product in financial products for more than 18 months now. It's integrated into the Portal DEX. So Portal DEX is not just the only trust minimized cross-chain DEX, it's the world's most advanced cross-chain DEX because it is trust minimized, and it actually has the AI investing copilot agents in there that anyone can access. And it actually interacts with the wallet. It can, with the press of a button, rebalance your portfolios, do all sorts of things that you want it to do. So it's not just a trust minimized cross-chain DEX anymore. The AI agents have been fully integrated into it.
Nice. I know I'm
There's
looking
no product like this as far as we are aware of, and we talk to all of these DEXs and CEXs all the time. So there's nothing like this in the market.
So where should an up-and-coming project look when they're interested in adding, the Swap SDK or any of our other products to their wallet or project?
Absolutely. So if it's a wallet team that is looking to add trust minimized swaps, Swap SDK documentation is on our website. Obviously, they can reach out to us. We can help them, guide them with integration. If it's an L1 or an L2 that wants to integrate the cross-chain swap functionality, the liquidity router is a little bit more involved. That may take a few days of work on both sides. So there is a way to reach out and get in the pipeline. And we have helped several teams integrate their L1s and L2s so far.
You've heard it here. If you want a little help, just reach out, and we've got it.
Yeah. You can do it yourself too, but it'd be easier if we guide you through.
Exactly. It never hurts to have your hand held. And now, we've got another question here from Max. Are there any mechanisms to incentivize long-term token holders, such as staking or locking tokens?
Of course. So 15% of all of the token emissions on the Portal chain actually go to stakers every block, every epoch. So the staking rewards exist. And the more interesting and important aspect of why people would want to stake is that fees collected by the DEX automatically every epoch go to buy and burn. 50% of the fees go to buy and burn the tokens on the open market, which the entire goal of the system is to actually take all of the value provided by these different entities, the validators, the liquidity providers, the various entities that are keeping the system up and running, and capture that value and recycle those fees back into the rewards that stakers, validators, and LPs get. And so there's a staking mechanism, but it also isn't just empty staking. That's an anti-dilution protection like most proof of stake chains. This is actually backed by real utility, which translates into demand, revenues back into the token.
I hope you've all heard that loud and clear. There will be plenty of opportunities for our token holders for long-term participation.
100%.
And now, on to our next question from a Mr. Creeper. Ooh, this is a long one. So, after the mainnet launch, not all light nodes may remain active, and some might not even activate from the start. Over time, say 4 to 5 years, if light node operators find that their rewards do not justify the cost of running the node, they may discontinue. Additionally, with only 42 validator nodes, the level of decentralization appears limited. Will we see an increase in the number of validators in the future? How does the project ensure that light node operators remain incentivized and receive fair returns for their contributions? Moreover, what measures are being taken to enhance the project's decentralization beyond its current state? This is a few questions rolled into one.
Yeah, excellent question, Mr. Creeper, whoever you are. So light nodes are incentivized by 5% of the block emissions distributed among the active ones for that epoch. So there's a total absolute number of 21,000 light nodes. Every block, the total 5% of those emissions are divided among the ones that are completely active and live during that epoch. So if more of them turn off, more of those emissions go to the ones that are active. That competitive pressure keeps them active, right? Second thing is about the validators. 42 is the minimum number of validators required per epoch. It's not the max. We expect that given the way the rewards are structured, there's a lot of demand that pulls forward a lot more validators at the beginning of the network. And so that translates into a lot more validators than just the 42. 42 is the minimum, not the max. And that ensures a level of decentralization. The third thing I would want to mention is that decentralization is interesting and good, but more important for what we're trying to do is trust minimization. A DEX, in our view, is meaningless if it is not trust minimized, right? And getting trust minimization in a cross-chain protocol is incredibly hard and hard to do right. And so that's what we've done. Even if there's only one node that's running, as long as all of your transactions are atomically trust minimized. You really don't care about anything. That the thing that it affects is not the ability of the validators to actually take your funds. That doesn't exist in the protocol. What it does affect is the performance of the network. It affects the liveness of the network. So it's very different from anything else that people are used to. If there's, like, for example, if you take a message passing protocol that has 5 validators, is it decentralized? Who cares? It's completely trust centralized, right? If you have 750 validators on a cross-chain infrastructure like Thorchain, who cares? They can all collude and take your money. So it's not trust minimized. So decentralization is a different axis than trust minimization. We've heavily indexed on the trust minimization. Decentralization does exist, and it'll continue to increase and improve because of the reward and incentive mechanisms. But in our case, that only affects performance and liveness, not custody or counterparty risk.
Yeah, and to a degree, that is a fundamental balance. Trust minimization versus decentralization.
Yeah, you can get both with us, but all I'm saying is that even if it is not decentralized, you're not going to lose trust minimization. You're only going to lose performance, which is the exact opposite of every other protocol.
That makes sense to me. And now we've got our next one here from Queeble. So you've raised 42.5 million from Coinbase Ventures and others. But what exactly stops you from launching, distributing tokens to investors, and leaving testnet participants with their sparks empty-handed, as so many incentivized testnet projects have done before?
It is unfortunate that many projects have actually made users do a lot of activity and test their products and use the community to their advantage and then left them empty-handed. What actually prevents us from doing it is skin in the game. If we actually do that to our community, how do we expect the network to continue to grow? How do we expect to continue to attract more users, which spins the flywheel of utility, more users, more liquidity, more trades, more volume, which is actually what keeps the network growing and healthy. So there is, there's that, and there's also just ethics. We do tend to keep our promises because that's who we are, and people who don't believe us don't have to participate in the network.
So would you say there's a direct incentive then for the network and the team to hold up its end of the bargain?
100%. 100%. I can't name a project that screwed over a whole bunch of hundreds of thousands of users and then survived to see another day. So why would anybody who's rational do that?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. All right. Now we've got our next one here from Lenovar 2024. Many cross-chain protocols struggle with sustainable revenue models due to fluctuating transaction volumes and, of course, market conditions. How does Portal to Bitcoin generate and sustain revenue over the long term?
Well, so there's only 2 or 3 sustainable business models in crypto, right? Secular, long-term, irrespective of market conditions, those that survive. Cross-chain transactions, exchanges continue to survive and make big money because they're needed and there's utility there. People actually pay for the service, right? Storage, third-party storage, custody, etc. And then mining in the case of Bitcoin. So whether the markets are up or down, it doesn't matter as long as you're providing real utility. I mean, look, to give you a simple analogy, recessions happen, crashes happen in traditional markets too. That doesn't mean the New York Stock Exchange goes out of business, right? A lot of businesses go out of business. New York Stock Exchange doesn't, NASDAQ doesn't, Intercontinental Exchange doesn't. These are the fundamental layers of infrastructure that make commerce possible. So we're that piece of infrastructure. So market fluctuations, yeah, we don't really care about that. This is a secular need that's going to be there for as long as people want to trade.
Indeed, and heck, even Uniswap is still around.
Yeah, and they're doing great. And even Thorchain, after getting hacked 3 times in a month, and then with recent insolvency issues, they're still minting money because the need is there. And if you provide a much better product with a much better user experience and a value proposition, the need is going to continue to be there. Demand expands. We expand markets by building better products. That's always been the case in software or any other market.
Indeed. And now, on to our next one from AI24. What are the prospects for the Portal project in the future? And how do you intend to maintain your highly active community, especially after the TGE, when many tend to leave projects?
Well, the prospects are great, which is why we're spending so much time and money on this, right? It's one thing to spend money on a project. It's another thing to dedicate a lot of talented people's time on a project. And the kind of talent that we have, we wouldn't be wasting it on a project that doesn't have good prospects, right? We may be fooling other people. We're not fooling ourselves. Having said that, a lot of people tend to leave projects because the token is the product. There is no further utility for 99% of crypto projects. There are all these castles in the sand about we're going to do this, and everybody's going to start putting their driver's licenses on our blockchain, or there's all these. We're going to build a social network that beats Facebook by making it 1,000 times less performant than a centralized database, and all sorts of nonsense exists in crypto. And rightfully, users tend to leave after the TGE because there is no utility. They can see they're not stupid. In our case, the use is there. The users are the community. And as long as they continue to derive utility and value that they can't get anywhere else, they should stick around. Some of them will leave, obviously, but many more will come.
Agreed. For the end user, does the up and downs of the token even really matter?
No, I mean, people continue to trade during up markets and down markets. As is happening in traditional markets right now. Charles Schwab isn't going out of business.
That's a good point. Right. Now we have from, I'm not even going to try to guess how to pronounce this one. He asks, hey, Chandra, imagine it's 2030 and Portal is the go-to for BTC swaps across the multi-chain universe. What's one wild, out-of-the-box feature you'd love to see Portal pull off? Like Bitcoin-powered time travel or holographic NFT swaps? That could redefine how one thinks about Bitcoin today.
Well, completely out of the left field stuff. Maybe we'll be beaming, swaps between here and Mars, right? Someone on Mars may have a Mars coin and they want to exchange Bitcoin, which can be potentially mined better on planet Earth. We can, you can think of all sorts of crazy things like President Hunter Biden being in office banning Bitcoin, and then everything goes underground. We can keep speculating. But the real use cases that we're super excited about is Web2 games. Billions of kids use games to socialize, to bond, develop their own communities. They earn rewards. These communities last for decades. And so there's naturally demand for in-game assets and accounts. And if you can provide a trust minimized way for people to actually enable those markets without a centralized custodian or a third party in the middle, that could be a very, very exciting use case. Most of the other ideas that we hear about, like real world assets on the blockchains and, oil features on the blockchain, et cetera, we don't really think have any merit. They have efficient markets already, and there's legal and jurisprudential issues there. But the stable coins is another one that we're super excited about. So, holographic NFTs, I don't know, man. I'm not sure what that means, or if NFTs will exist at that point. So,
I think he means like the physical trading cards.
Oh, well, teleportation, time travel, et cetera, if that happens, we'd be, I guess we'll somehow try to fit Portal just because the name demands it.
Fingers crossed. And for those Earth to Mars swaps, we might have to check in with what IPFS is up to.
Yeah, they're up to raising the cost of storage by 100,000 times what you can get on AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud.
Oof, ouch. All right, on to our next one from Snyder4. How does Portal compare to existing cross-chain solutions like Thorchain or LayerZero?
Okay, Snyder4 must be someone new to our community. LayerZero is just the laziest way of passing messages between different blockchains with like some form of a pseudo decentralized like validator set in the middle. It's the laziest way to do cross-chain communication. Thorchain obviously has custodial issues, solvency issues. I don't think I'm disclosing anything that you guys don't already know. There's no other trust minimized cross-chain protocol that performs with the speed, the low transaction fees, the user experience that Portal can provide. And so we're very, very differentiated. But having said that, we love that these other inferior solutions exist because that actually proves demand. If a shitty product has a lot of demand, a superb product should be able to absorb a lot more than that and expand the market. That's just worked out in almost every product use case.
Plus, they're learning opportunities.
Yeah, we can learn from all their mistakes as we have.
I'm sure Facebook learned a lot from Friendster.
Absolutely. At one point, MySpace and Friendster had to, you had to wait a couple of minutes for the page to load, and Facebook was simple. It did a few things extremely well, and they had a rock star engineering team right from the beginning, and continue to this day.
The beauty of
Superior products with great distribution strategies have always been the way Silicon Valley won over the world, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
And now on to our next one from Lee. If there are cases similar to hackers using Thorchain to launder stolen Bybit assets, what countermeasures does Portal have?
That's a very tricky question. Portal has a built-in compliance module enabled by default for all of the validators. It includes, for example, the OPAC blacklists and blocked addresses. And it is incumbent upon all of the validators to keep updating them. As the core developers, we facilitated a very, very easy way for them to keep it up to date and, basically censor any transactions that they want to. Do I personally think that's the right way to do things? My personal opinions have nothing to do with the protocol. There's a good argument to be had that if you are talking about digital bearer instruments, you shouldn't go back and rewrite history just because something untoward happened. And that's an argument with a lot of merit. You don't go to Ethereum and say perform a replay attack on the Ethereum blockchain because someone stole your Ethereum private key, right? You wouldn't do the same thing on Bitcoin. It wouldn't fly. So those are tricky ethical questions. But it's entirely up to the validators. We have no say in that after the protocol goes to mainnet.
And it's never an easy thing, but you could say we're giving the validators the tools.
Yeah, we are giving and we have given the validators all the tools that they need to do this if they want to, just like any miner can censor any transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. And we've got another here from Perfect Zenwa. Are you considering AI-powered analytics to provide users with insights on market trends and trade opportunities?
100%. That's one of the key values that we bring to the table, right? Like there's two things that make Portal DEX extremely unique and singular. One is the complete trust minimization of the core protocol and the performance. Two is the AI team of AI agents that are actually embedded right where you want them to. and they can actually perform all of these actions for you, not just analysis and analytics, but also rebalancing, redirecting trades. It's just next level.
All from one's wallets?
The wallet, DEX, AI agents, they're all included in one simple, intuitive interface. It doesn't exist anywhere else. On that note, I would like to say, what the hell have all these sexes been doing for a decade?
When you're doing well, you tend to relax.
That's right. That's probably very true.
Now, onto our next one from Vatty M. As Bitcoin evolves beyond just a store of value, new primitives like Ordinals, Bitcoin DeFi, and sidechains are emerging. Which of these innovations do you feel has the most potential? And how does Portal to Bitcoin position itself in this new frontier?
So our core thesis when we started Portal was to facilitate the transition or the transformation of the Bitcoin block space from being the settlement layer for just BTC, the asset, to settlement layer for millions of markets. So sidechains, pegged sidechains or unpegged sidechains, asset issuance layers, layer twos, which are basically sidechains LARPing as layer twos, etc. Native assets on layer one. There's all sorts of use cases for the Bitcoin block space. We don't want to be in the guessing game, right? We're the infrastructure provider. We don't actually want to make bets on which one's going to take off and provide real utility. For example, we were surprised as anybody else. We thought Ordinals was a complete fad and had no value. That turned out to be wrong. So we are very agnostic on which use cases will have real utility and longevity. And fortunately, being the infrastructure base layer provider, we don't really have to make those directional bets. We support whatever people want to use it for.
So could one say that, whatever is trending, they would have to go through us, the infrastructure layer?
You're right. That's exactly right. Whatever is trending, it'll have to go through us, because we are the trust minimized layer between base Bitcoin and other L1s, L2s, other asset issuance protocols, etc. So whatever is trending, whatever people want to, jump on, they have to go through us. The portal.
Lovely. Now we've got another one here from Max. How do you define Portal to Bitcoin's success after the mainnet launch? What metrics will the team measure it by, and what do you want users to say about the project when they experience it in a year's time?
Great question. Success, obviously, if you can't measure something, you can't manage it, right? So success to us means number of users, number of downloads, DAUs, number of transactions per user, average value per transaction. And the only way we would measure success a year from now from the user base, the core user base, is how did we live before Portal to Bitcoin, and why were we using those shitty tools?
Almost a before times.
Yep, the before times and after times. We'd like to see people's conception of crypto as before Portal and after Portal. That would be the ultimate measure of success.
BP and AP. Love it. And now we've got one last one. This question's actually from me. So, Manoj, our CTO, tells us that you're the older brother. Is this true?
We've had this long-standing debate, and I'm going to have to get my mom in here and let her adjudicate this long-standing dispute. But frankly, yes, I'm the older brother.
And with that, that's our time. I will thank everyone for tuning in to this AMA. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you very much, Terry, and thank you all for joining and for your time.